Hi, I'm Josh,
Meagan.
and we're here from, yeah, you guys know that. We're here from Kendall County, Illinois, southwest of Chicago. And yeah, we are a county government agency, but we use OpenStreetMap wherever and whenever we can, which scares a lot of our peers and elicits questions from other people, and we just want to talk about what that looks like for us. So we are a community organizational member of OpenStreetMap US. You know, thanks, Maggie. And the OSMF as well, and we are on the organized editing wiki page, due diligence, you know. But clapping for that, nice. So anyway, you know, one of the issues we run into with using OpenStreetMap and contributing to it, there are concerns about authoritativeness, and we, you know, we wonder, like, what does authoritative actually mean when we say that? You know, the short version is, like, it doesn't really matter where that data is coming from. It matters if it's official and if it's reliable, right? There's a lot of authoritative data on Esri's Living Atlas, but it's really just a copy living on Esri's server, but it doesn't make it less authoritative. And so we want to know that the data is coming from whoever's in charge of it. We want to be able to trust that, but it can come from another source and still be considered authoritative. And you know, so for a lot of the Kendall County data, like, we're the authoritative source. And so as long as you're getting the data from us, the means of access wouldn't change the fact that, like, we put it there, and it's the official stuff. Do you have anything? Okay, cool. So, you know, a good example is, you know, here's OpenStreetMap's highways and waterways in 2007, and then in 2009, and, you know, most of you know that's from the Tiger import. And so it filled out the map, and that's a great thing, and we know there's issues with Tiger, but the point is, you know, post-import, that meant that the vast majority of highways and waterways in North America were authoritative federal data. Now, they were problematic, and a lot of them still haven't been touched since then, the Tiger reviewed equals no stuff, but you know, it is authoritative federal data. It just happens to be in OpenStreetMap, and it happens to be sitting next to crowdsourced information about benches and playground equipment. But it's still cool that it's there. And should we talk about the history of Kendall with OSM? I kind of breezed past that.
Yeah, up to you.
So I started it. I've been on OpenStreetMap from before I joined the county, and I kept bugging Meagan, and I said we should use it. Can we get a license adopted so we can import it? You know, and then eventually we just figured it doesn't really matter where the data lives if we know it's okay. So anyway, our approach then, you know, considering that we are the authoritative source, we have some control over this, and we're lucky. We're in a small county government. Did anyone ever ask you, like, where's the data live?
No.
No, they don't care. They just need the maps to look right. So we can put it anywhere we want, and that's very lucky. So we kind of looked at using OpenStreetMap to improve our data, and then is there anything authoritative we have that can improve OpenStreetMap? And when we compare the two, we find that most of the time OpenStreetMap was already better than the county's official stuff. There might have been a few things that we had that was a little newer, or a couple of attributes that OSM didn't have, and so we can bring those in, but then benefit from all of the amazing edits provided by the OSM community. And so, you know, we were like a lot of counties. If I mean, who here has had to deal with a county's open data hub, right? I'm not knocking, like, it's good that they're doing that, right? But most counties, they just put an as-is disclaimer saying, like, you assume your own risk, it's not our problem. There's no official data license type, it's really frustrating. And then if you want, you know, and they all have railways, they all have waterways, but whatever, the point is, we had all these layers. Internally, we're not using them for anything. Not anything important, and not anything critical enough where they needed to be kept in a silo. And OSM was already better. I mean, but Clay's in the room. Thanks to him, and a lot of other people, but especially him in Chicagoland, all the railways in OSM are like phenomenal, and way better than anything else we had access to. So we're like, let's just delete the county layer. It means nothing. And let's just bring in the OSM layer, and that's it. So we've been making the switch. We evaluate what of our layers are worth keeping, what needs to stay in a silo. And a lot of the time, there is no good reason. There are other things that feel like they should be controlled more, like addresses, official county addresses. A lot of people think, oh, you need to protect that, you need to control that. And we said, well, if we just can validate it, let's just do it in OpenStreetMap. And so for even building footprints and addresses, there is no county version that we're conflating, it's only OpenStreetMap. We get a building permit, assigning a new address, we add it to OpenStreetMap, and that's the whole thing. So there is not, if you go looking for a Kendall County address points file, it's an OpenStreetMap extract. It is not some separate thing.
I'll add to that. So with keeping addresses and then even our center lines, we don't have any of that on the county side. That is all exclusively in OSM. And what's great about it is that we actually had a road opening that the village of Montgomery hadn't just gotten around to telling us just yet, and a member of the public, some user, had opened the road on OSM, and well before we had ever heard from it from the authoritative source. Mm-hmm. So you have people who care deeply about their place, their community. They're going to update the addresses, the center lines, road work, before we might even know about it from those authoritative sources.
Yeah.
So it's just engaging that community and bringing everybody to our county, which is who we're serving. We're serving the citizens.
Yeah, and similar to the previous talk, there are a lot of eyes on the data. So we validate everything, but we're doing it as we can. But we've only seen 2 instances of like legitimate vandalism in Kendall County. And one of them, it happened overnight, and by the time I saw it on OSM CHA, someone else had already fixed it. So these the risks to having it out there in a public data set are really much smaller than it's made out to be. So why we switched, there are a lot of benefits to us. Of course, we want our data to be out there where the community can get at it without dealing with an administrative division that just like, the center lines don't stop at the county boundary. You should be able to get all the data regardless of how much of your area of interest intersects with us. But we get some benefits. The big one is the history. If you work in, kind of Esri stuff, editor tracking exists, but it just tells you who was the last editor and when did they do it. But you have no idea what they did. Did they fix a typo, or did they replace the entire geometry? You don't know, unless you're using geodatabase archiving, but that can be kind of a headache to deal with, right? So OpenStreetMap's deep history, where you can say, show me every prior version of this building, when the tags changed and who did it, that gives us actually way more confidence in our data than when it lived somewhere else that only we had access to. I feel a lot better about it being on OpenStreetMap, where multiple people can validate and we can kind of roll the clock back if something happened. The flexibility is a big one. I hate tabular data sets. I don't like having fixed columns. If I've got 1,000 benches and only one of them has like an ad on the back, I want to be able to tag that one without creating columns in my table that will hold 999 null values. So being able to just, any tag you like on any object you like, I love that. And I can do whatever I need to get that into our data sets later, but I know we're running short on time. Collaboration is huge. Meagan mentioned we have a few local mappers who are pretty serious. They get out there before our imagery updates, and they're mapping sidewalks, they're mapping all kinds of stuff, and that's on the ground data that we're not going to get to it in that detail, maybe ever. We might get it in some detail with aerials, but we have people who are giving us higher quality data than we've got the time and resources to collect ourselves.
I'll add to that.
Yeah.
Just to add on to that one, we've been able to expand our internship program because we don't have to spend weeks or just days teaching somebody either Esri products or just any other GIS product. OSM is so intuitive and user-friendly that anyone can have access to it. So we have 4 interns at the moment, I think. Just keep them on a rotating basis. So we probably run through a dozen people over the last couple of years.
And OSM training is like a day 1 task.
Yeah.
We might not ever get to showing them ArcGIS Pro, but they know how to tag things in OpenStreetMap if they work with us. Also, obviously, it's cooler. OpenStreetMap and FOSS in general is just it's a cooler community to contribute to. Do I have like 2 minutes, 1 minute? Am I out of time? 2 minutes. All right. So due diligence, right? If we want to claim this as authoritative, we can't just dump it in and say, have at it. You know, we have to do a little more to make sure that that data is trustworthy. So I read, there was an article out there, I don't have the link, but about OpenStreetMap quality assessment. They use the term data gardener, and I love it. So we are data gardeners for Kendall County. We use all the tools we can, but OSM CHA is a big one. We've got 5 or 6 different filter sets that we use to keep tabs on what's happening in Kendall County. We make great use of the trusted users and the watch list. So, you know, for people that I don't know what their level of quality is, or I know and it's not good, you know, we've got those checked, you know, going back almost a year, and we're just going back in time further and further to clear out all the backlog but for edits that touch addresses or political boundaries, you know, we check those no matter who the person is, because a lot of those might have been accidental. So we're just checking on everything that happens, so that when we say our addresses are in OpenStreetMap and they're good, we're saying that with a high level of confidence. So, you know, is it authoritative? I would say yeah, because for us, it is the official source if you want Kendall County's addresses. It is the only source for OpenStreetMap, or for address points. And it's all being reviewed by staff. Every address change set is validated by at least 1 member of staff, which is more than we could say for the stuff in the old system. Time's up. So you can talk to me later. We have Esri stuff. We still have to get stuff into Portal on web maps. Well, that rendered really poorly. But anyway, we have some Python scripts that just, you know, we use Awesome to Postgres, get into PostGIS. We have some SQL GeoPandas, and it throws it into Portal layers that are effectively mirrors of OpenStreetMap, but in the tabular way that web maps like. So we have this system. It's on Codeberg. Ask me about it. But if you're on Esri but you want to use OpenStreetMap, it's very easy to set something up where it just updates every however often you want it to. And also, big shout out to OSM Slice, because it makes it very simple to get like just Kendall up to 2 minutes ago and put it into PostGIS. Anyway, you can ask me about the technical details.
Give him your page.
And if you want to.
This whole presentation's on his page.
Yeah, you can
self-host his own page.
You can see all the slides. There's other fun stuff on there. You can email us. I'd love to talk more about this. I clearly have no problem talking a lot about it, and I blatantly ignored the 0 minutes left and kept talking for 2 more minutes. I'm sorry, but thanks very much. All right.